Here now with more is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. You know, Senator, I don't think we ever have to put boots on the ground. I think the way Donald Trump beat the caliphate that grew under Obama and Biden, you know, with pinpoint accuracy and modern weaponry and technology, our military was pressing buttons in an air-conditioned room in Tampa, Florida. We don't need that option. You are a historian of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan helped the freedom fighters, the Contras in Nicaragua, with weapons. He helped the Mujahideen defeat the Soviet Union, then Soviet Union, with Stinger missiles. I would like to think that we would do the same thing here and not put a single American boot on the ground throughout this conflict ever. You agree with that?
Sean, I think you're exactly right, that we can and should help Ukraine win this war and defeat Russia, defeat Putin. But we should not put American servicemen and women in harm's way, that we should not put boots on the ground. It's the reason that I oppose a no-fly zone. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have President Zelensky address a joint session of Congress remotely. I think he may well ask for a no-fly zone. I understand why he wants that. And there have been some Democrats, some Republicans that have foolishly echoed that call. But a no-fly zone would be a mistake because that has American pilots and American fighter jets engaged in direct conflict with Russian pilots and Russian fighter jets. And that is an invitation to escalation, an invitation to World War III. We don't want to see that. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing we can do. We can do a great deal. We can provide lethal military aid, as you said, Stingers, as you said, javelins. Twice last year, Joe Biden halted military aid to Ukraine. In December and in April of last year, he halted military aid to try to pressure Zelensky to give in to Russia. And critically, we should be providing jets. Joe Biden vetoed the Polish MiGs from going to Kiev. That's what Zelensky said. When we did a conference call with him just over a week ago, Zelensky said his number one priority was to get those MiGs, those jets, so that Ukrainian pilots could defend themselves from Russian pilots. You know, you played that rather pitiful video of Nancy Pelosi where she said, well, gosh, we should get them the MiGs. Well, Nancy, there's a real easy way to do it. Pick up the phone and call Joe. Joe is the one stopping it. Joe Biden is the one stopping the MiGs, and that devastation we're seeing in Ukraine is the direct result of Joe Biden's weakness, his appeasement, his surrender to Putin on Nord Stream 2. And tragically, among the casualties we're seeing are those heroic Fox reporters. And let me say my deep condolences to the families of Pierre and Sasha, and our prayers are very much with Benjamin. They are heroically being on the ground, reporting what's happening, and tragically that they paid the ultimate price for that.
You know, they did. What is the rationale? I understand your arguments completely as it relates to the no-fly zone, but I don't understand the resistance to arming. You know, what difference does it make? They've had such success using the javelins and the Stingers. Yep. Why this mysterious reluctance towards the MiGs or any other fighter jets? Is Joe afraid that Vladimir is going to get mad at him? Like he's afraid that reporters will get mad, that his staff will get mad at him if he answers a reporter's question?
Well, unfortunately, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and this administration, they believe that the way to deal with bad guys, the way to deal with our enemies, is through giving in, is through surrendering, is through weakness, is through appeasement. We've seen this with Russia. We've seen this with China. We've seen this with Iran. We've seen this with Venezuela. That is their M.O. And it's been Joe Biden's M.O. for 50 years. He's been wrong on every foreign policy question for 5 decades, literally since when I was a toddler and Joe Biden arrived in the Senate. He's been consistently wrong. And so you look at right now, Zelensky is saying we need fighter jets. And I got to tell you, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, there is overwhelming, even a bipartisan consensus that we should provide those fighter jets. You know, we had a recent briefing where every Democrat in the room and every Republican in the room said, provide the jets now. But Biden's view is somehow that giving Stingers and Javelins is okay. And those Stingers and Javelins are right now destroying Russian tanks, shooting down Russian planes, killing Russian soldiers. And he says that's okay. But somehow passing on the Polish MiGs, which would do the same thing, shut down Russian planes, that's an unnecessary escalation. It's just Biden is afraid of Putin, And not only should we be passing on those MiGs so the Ukrainian pilots can use them, we also ought to be encouraging the other former Soviet bloc nations around Ukraine to move air defense systems into Ukraine's borders to be able to defend themselves from Russian jets. And let me be clear, to get those Polish MiGs to Ukraine, we should not have American pilots fly them. Rather, we should do the same thing that the plan was in Poland, which is to have Ukrainian pilots come and get them and fly them back. And then if they engage with combats with the Russians, well, they're in the middle of an active war. That's how we defeat them. But not only that, we combine them. What Boris Johnson just said in the clip you played that was really important, we combine that with undercutting Putin's revenue stream by taking away his oil and gas customers. And we do that by unleashing American production, allowing the superpower, the energy superpower that is America to produce oil, to produce gas. Joe Biden has 6 pending applications to export liquid natural gas. He ought to approve every one of them tomorrow so we can take away Putin's customers. Nothing will undercut his strength more. Nothing will cause the old KGB thugs and the oligarchs to rise up against him more. And nothing will more weaken Putin's ability to wage war in Ukraine than taking away his revenue by stepping in and fulfilling Europe's energy needs.
You know, Senator, Crimea was annexed when Joe Biden was Vice President, Obama president. The caliphate, it grew out completely while Joe was vice president and Obama was president. Nothing happened when Donald Trump was president. And here we go again. Now it seems that Putin's taken over the whole country. I'm not even convinced, Senator, and this is not a joke. I am not convinced Joe Biden knows that today is Tuesday. Obviously, we have Kamala Harris, when she explained the situation and what's going on in Europe. Well, Ukraine is a country in Europe, and it's next to another country in Europe, and that country's called Russia, and Russia's bad, and they invaded. I'm like, okay. And it seems like she didn't know that Ukraine was not part of NATO. And then I just played a tape of the third in line for the presidency, which would be the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And let's just point out that she seems to be struggling also. The world is watching our 3 top leaders, Senator, and I think they see nothing but a vulnerability and weakness in America's leaders. I think I'll take the guy with the mean tweets back that had strength.
Look, Sean, what you're saying is tragically true. And what's particularly galling is these guys spent 4 years during the Trump presidency saying these guys don't know what they're doing, and now the adults are back in charge. That's what they claim. And you know, today I was meeting in my office with a Biden nominee to be an ambassador, and that nominee, she said, you know, I asked her, what do you think of the Biden foreign policy this last year? And she said, oh, it's great. It's really working well. I said, really? Like, can you give me one example? She says, well, Ukraine, we produced enormous international consensus. I'm like, you got to be frigging kidding me. We have the most significant war in Europe since World War II, and you point to Ukraine as an example of these guys' success? My God, this was a disaster they caused. Russia invaded Ukraine because of Biden's weakness, because of his withdrawal from Afghanistan, because of his waiving sanctions on Nord Stream 2. And every single enemy of America is stronger, is emboldened. The chances of the next shoe dropping, of China invading Taiwan, are growing by the day because they see Biden's weakness. And right now, Biden's emissaries are in Venezuela begging Maduro to sell us oil, and are in Vienna trying to beg the Ayatollah in Iran to sell us oil. They want every enemy of America to get rich, to make billions to use to kill Americans. And the one people they don't want to actually sell oil and gas are Americans that produce American jobs. It is literally, if you sat down and said, every enemy of America, let's help them, let's benefit them. Every friend of America, let's alienate them, let's undercut them, let's hurt them. Sean, you would not devise a different foreign policy than the one Biden and Kamala have put in place.
This is not a country that I recognize right now. It is not the United States that is strong, that is leading the world. And we see the consequences of no strength. Senator Cruz, we thank you as always.